Hello everybody, so this video I want to show you how to take some licks and ideas and solos and how to apply them to whenever you need to play a keyboard solo in a band. This one's going to be in the key of B flat, which is very common in a lot of jazz songs, but in others genres as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little solo and I'm going to break it down how to play it, and then I'm going to show you how to take little ideas from it and play them onto other situations. So let me go over all that slowly and nitpick some points of interest. A lot of what's going to happen here is how you have to pay attention to your fingerings. You don't have to necessarily use the fingerings that I use, but there's a reason why I use them, and I'll show you why I'm doing each one of them. This starts off with a simple little run, chromatic run, very quickly. Notice that here I changed the use of finger. Rather than not doing that, it sets me up very comfortably to the next lick. Um, while I'm holding this note, while it's held, I relocate my middle finger to hold a note so I can set up to be in the area that I need to be here. A flat, B flat, A flat. So up to this point. Again, notice the finger change. So I can easily reach the notes here, the D flat D that I want to use. So up to this point. There you have it, up to that. Next little run can be kind of fast. We'll break it down. Let me go through all of that. This is all coming off the B flat major pentatonic scale with some little occasional flatted notes for blues flavoring. You see the pattern that I'm using, how those little notes that come in between the scale, there's your scale, that little note shoved in the middle. Same here. These are the notes in the scale. Gives it, that little F sharp gives it a little bluesy edge. I'll do that slowly. Yeah. Yeah. This is a little interesting little spot. Again, I'm going to play actually these two notes twice, but with different fingers, just because the first time I need to relocate my hand to a comfortable place. Sometimes it gets a little tricky to play it slow. Yeah. Notice how I keep the pinky on that high F note to kind of give it a contrast. Then a little Mixolydian thing. Whoops. Yeah. This little next bit starts the same way, with the F pedaling on top. This is where it can get kind of tricky. This is where I constantly make mistakes. Notice that repeat note. D, F, F, G. And I have to relocate my fingers because the next whole bit is going to happen in this area. Those little, I can just hit these two notes, the D and the F, but I'm adding a little run here with slide from that D flat or C sharp, sliding down to the D note to give it again a bluesier texture. Again, keeping the F as much as I can. It's almost the same lick. This time, instead of I'm actually putting more full chords on top of that. A flat to E flat. Next, I got this little thing going. And to finish it off, and then we got, basically it's almost the same riff as we had earlier in the solo, but not as intense tempo-wise or in the composition, a little more relaxed. And then again, I'm keeping that F note on top as a drone on top, but the lick underneath is really just. And just trying to do that with the F on top. then trying to hit more notes there. And then I'm trying to add the slide again to give it the bluesier feel. And that's the whole thing. I'd like to show you a little bit of how to use this for soloing purposes. And every time you're in a key of B flat major, any one of those licks or any modification, or almost any modification of it, can easily work in your favor and be utilized however you want. With experience, you're going to learn more. With trial and error, you're going to learn more about which one works better and which one doesn't work as well. And you can mix and match them to your heart's content, and as you're developing the ideas that you like that define you. I'm going to put basically a basic kind of groove here. It's an old 6/8 groove. Very easy. We got a B flat chord going here, and on top I'm just going to improvise with the notes that I want. I'm going to put actually piano sound so it sticks here a little better. As you can see, I'm playing the solo beginning to end with no... Let me stop this. Playing the solo beginning to end with no... just modifying every now and then the timing of where the notes come, and as a result the solo starts to sound different. You can also take little segments and experiment with them as I go along. Let's take the beginning part. You saw how basically I took that little phrase at the beginning of the solo and mixed and matched it in a million one different ways. Changed the rhythm of it. I can also add little notes in between to kind of take it up a notch. See, I keep adding this G underneath. I can add different notes. Now I can add the two of them. You can see they all came from the same idea that I'm doing in the beginning. And I can do that with every one of the notes, every one of the little phrases that I have in the solo. Here's the next little phrase. Again, this one's longer and more intense, but I don't have to play it that intense all the time. First of all, I did is I played it a lot slower and broke it down to the notes so I can hit each one, and at some point stopped on a little phrase that's happening in the middle of that and repeated it a few times. See, this little phrase is actually built around the same material that we had here, but an octave higher. So again, I can copy and paste things to my heart's content. And so on. In this case, I took the beginning of the lick, stopped somewhere in the middle, and sort of worked my way backwards. Again, mix and match however you want. I don't know if you guys recognize this is basically ripped off another tune. And so on throughout the whole song. Again, I took the little bit at the end of the solo and played around with it. The key is trial and error. A lot of trial and a lot of error. There's going to be a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of screaming and yelling and cussing, and you just got to plow through it until you sort of develop and the notes start to build themselves in your head on their own. So I want to show you a little bit how you can use the licks in different style of music. It doesn't have to be strict to one way or another, and different sounds for that matter. There's slight modification in feel that you're going to constantly do depending on the situation and what sounds good, and you got to follow your ear, you got to listen, but the material, the raw material that you're using doesn't change. So we're going to try this on an old classic kind of 60s groove. And I'm going to do exactly the same solo or in variations to make the point. You can see I'm using the same licks and I'm going to modify them the same way. Because the rhythm sounds different, I have to make adjustments, but with trial and error, I can come up with things constantly. There's one example. Here's another example where you can use all these licks for any kind of music, any kind of style that you might encounter. This is going to be more of a swing thing. Noodle to your heart's content. Let's try to do it on a completely different style. Uh, this kind of a more of a funky kind of groove here. It's got a lot of 16th note subdivision, but I'm going to use the same ideas. Same concept. Any kind of music, any kind of style, for that matter. Okay, for those of you who are familiar enough with the music or sharp-eared enough to recognize it, you might notice that all these solos and all these licks that I took from a very famous mid-70s classic rock tune. Basically, if you play that same solo against A flat to B flat chords, I got A flat C E flat going to F B flat D note. No, it doesn't necessarily come in the picture, but basically I'm doing this an octave lower. You're going to get that song. Those you might notice that I'm doing a somewhat watered down, simplified version, but I am doing the general song of that. I'm not. I'm taking enough out to make it fairly reasonably simple on me, but also leaving enough in to make it very obvious what the song is. That is, if you know the song. Anyway, mess around with it. Take around the licks. Try to vary them, change them, arrange them, use them every time you have a progression. It's in B flat major. You can try it with different sounds, different textures. There's plenty of play along tracks on YouTube that you can use to test this. You don't have to write or record anything, and have fun with it and enjoy.